We are now recording. All right. Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Coffee with Ben. My name is Ben Blackman. I'm the Director of Development for Ridge, which is a group of innovation consultants based in St. Petersburg, Florida. Before we get started, as always, I want to encourage everybody out there to subscribe to the YouTube channel for Ridge and our Facebook page. Hit the like button. Feel free to share our content. You can also schedule your very own Coffee with Ben session. We can talk about how Ridge can help your company to strategically plan and innovate more effectively. This show, Coffee with Ben, focuses on how companies innovate, strategically plan, and how they create a strong culture for their employees. I'm extremely excited to welcome our guest this morning. His name is Chris Carlo, and he's a partner at MercuryWorks, which is a Tampa-based custom software and web development firm that specializes in web, mobile, and data-focused solutions. Chris, thanks for joining me this morning. How are you?
I'm doing great, Ben. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. Well, many of the guests on our show have had long and winding roads that have led them to their current position. But you're someone, and looking at your experience, you seem to have found something that really works for you. You've stuck with it. You're in year 17 now as a partner at MercuryWorks,
That's right.
if I'm not mistaken. So I'm curious what brought you to MercuryWorks, and perhaps more importantly, what has been the key for you to stick around all this time? You're going strong almost 2 decades now.
Yeah, I certainly enjoy what I do. There's no doubt about that. And, but it wasn't exactly a clearly drawn line, right? While I may have not taken quite as circuitous of a route as many have chosen to take, started out my first career was actually in commercial banking and worked for what was then Barnett Bank, which became Nations Bank and Bank of America, and held various positions within the bank. And one of them, was as a direct lender, and really enjoyed the impact that I was able to make on my clients' businesses, right? And see that impact firsthand was something that I really enjoyed. And then in another role within the bank, was able to do internal bank financial analysis, working closely with the CFO, and a group from Booz Allen Hamilton came in and did a management consulting engagement with the bank to help us improve operational efficiency and organizational efficiency. And in doing so was like, wow, this is pretty cool. I want to do what those guys are doing, and started to explore that a little bit. And in doing my research, found that one of the best ways to go about getting into management consulting was to go to business school. So I went and got my MBA at the University of Chicago, and upon graduating from University of Chicago, went to work with a technology and strategy consulting firm, and it was kind of larger organizations, publicly traded, and we worked mostly with Fortune 100 clients, and had a chance to really get into a lot of different businesses, work with a lot of wonderful people, try to solve some really tough challenges, try to explore ways to leverage technology to help businesses better grow. But it, was getting on an airplane every Monday morning, flying home on Thursday night, kind of traditional management consulting schedule, which, when you're a little bit younger and single is a pretty fun lifestyle. But as I looked forward to what the partners in the firm were doing, and kind of where my partner track was leading me, realized that really wasn't where I wanted to take my career and my life. And so after about 5 years of consulting, was in conversations with my now business partner, Donald Bickle, who I've known since high school. We both went to high school here, in fact, in the Tampa Bay area at King High School. And, was trying to recruit him to come work at the consulting firm that I was at. And he kind of pushed back and said, well, shoot, why don't you come join me at Mercury and help me grow and scale this organization? And at the time I joined Mercury, there were 3 of us. And we've grown quite a bit since then. And the past 17 years have really allowed me to do the things I like most, much like when I was in banking, have an opportunity to have a very direct impact in my client's business. Also have a chance to really connect in the community that I'm in. Wasn't afforded that opportunity in consulting that I was before. And then finally, the technology piece, right? Where, the technology is constantly growing and evolving and changing, and really being able to be part of that and part of unleashing that power to help clients grow, prosper, and become more effective is just something that I really, really enjoy. And it never gets boring. The technology is constantly changing, and the challenges never stop.
And that relationship at the top with your partner must be on solid ground to stick around this long, I would imagine. I guess if you go back to high school days, some things just never change, right?
Yeah, and but at a more practical level, I think, and I've actually been asked to speak on this topic, right? There's a lot of philosophical debates around, should a solo entrepreneur go it alone, or should you work with partner or partners, right? And you can easily argue both sides. For me, one of the key factors of success isn't necessarily just that we had known each other so long, but the trust, right? That there's just an inherent trust there because of the relationship that had been there well before we became business partners, which is a really critical ingredient even to this day, of just knowing, even when there's disagreements, that we're both acting in the best interest of the organization, and that you don't start letting paranoia or delusion set in. When we've been through the tech, the dot-com bust, the recession of 2008, and now this latest pandemic and financial and social crisis, having someone that you can rely on with 100% full faith, confidence, and trust is for me, one of the critical ingredients of my success and happiness, both with my business partner and even at home with my wife in that partnership.
That's a great segue to the next question I have for you. As I mentioned up front, MercuryWorks is a Tampa-based custom software and web development firm. You guys do web, mobile, data-focused solutions. It's a very competitive field. There's a lot of firms doing similar things.
No doubt.
What do you believe separates MercuryWorks from competitors? Is it that level of trust that you have with your clientele, or is there another element, or is there a secret sauce that has allowed you guys to be so successful in this field?
Yeah, I'm asked this question frequently, and people are sometimes a little disappointed by the answer because they want the secret recipe, right? Like, if you get the 11 herbs and spices, you're going to put KFC out of business. Or if you somehow figured out how, what the composite mixture of sugar and carbonation for Coke is, you could take Coke out, right? But it's really what you nailed, Ben. It's around trust with clients, trust with our team, and that's something that's built over time, right? So we have to earn that. And that's what we do, right? Is we earn that trust day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. And in some cases, we have clients that have been with us for a decade or two, almost since the beginning of the firm. And it's goes back to building that trust, and the mantra, that we're constantly preaching and reinforcing with our people, is that we need to consistently and repeatedly ship high quality software. And they're like, well, no kidding. Yeah, of course we need to do that. And it's like, no, you have to do that. And if you do that, it's easy to build trust. It's easy to build long-term relationships, but believe it or not, actually executing that can be a bit tricky, right? Consistently and repeatedly shipping high quality software can be a challenge at times. And it's what a lot of software development teams struggle with, whether it's internal teams at our clients and part of why they reach out to us, or even at firms, right? So there's, being able to do that is a challenge. One of the things that we think makes it possible at Mercury is the fact that our teams are staffed almost exclusively with Mercury employees instead of contractors. So by using our own W-2 full-time employees instead of 1099 contractors, we're able to build high functioning, cohesive teams over time because they're trusting each other, right? Because they've had repeated cycles, repeated projects, repeated sprints, sprint after sprint, month after month, year after year. And so while from time to time a new team member will join our team, or a team member may go on to a different career, that cohesiveness, that trust, that bond and those patterns of success are already well ingrained. And that I think is one of the things that we do that's different than maybe what some firms do, where they offshore the work or go find some technical expertise on a contract basis, bring them in, try to blow through a project, and then go on to the next project. From a transactional standpoint, while they may have top technical talent, they don't have that same cohesion, communication that allows for that consistency and repeatably ability to ship high quality software.
Yeah, it's hard to put a price tag on that kind of cohesion, and that consistency over time. I'm sure that your clients certainly appreciate it. I wanted to note that when I was doing some research on the company, I went to your website and I saw that the website proclaims that MercuryWorks solves wicked problems. And aside from being connected to Boston, which I don't think you are, where they use the adjective wicked as kind of a toss away, I'm curious what you guys mean by wicked problems. Can you provide some examples of the wicked problems that your clients have, and then how specifically that MercuryWorks addresses those problems?
Yeah, absolutely. The wicked problems are those that really are creating persistent challenges for our clients, right? Where they've usually, when we're brought in, they've usually attempted to solve the problem themselves, or have been so challenged by the inability to find a potential solution that they know they need outside help, or maybe capacity constrained from either amount of resources they have available to tackle the problem, or types of resources that they have available to tackle the problem. So we can come in and be an adjunct component of their team, really, right? And that's usually what we're doing is not just staff aug or body shopping out development time or people, but really coming in as a team and being an adjunct component of their team to really help them think through the challenges they're facing, which allows us to take a longer term viewpoint with them, because that's oftentimes what causes problems to fester. And it's kind of like a burning ember, right? You start with something small, but over time those can really become heated fires, right? And those are the wicked problems that, if they go unattended to, can really cause problems and even in times be very destructive to businesses. So by bringing in a team like the Mercury team, we can sit down, bringing our 2+ decades of experience in solving the kinds of challenges that clients are faced with, whether they're development challenges, DevOps challenges, technology strategy and planning within the application development realm, and really help them think through, based on our experience doing it, based on industry best practices, and the fresh perspective that we bring, right? So we're not mired in the day-to-day bureaucracy or political situations within the organization, or even busy fighting the operational day-to-day fires that need to be tended to keep the current systems running, and really bring a broader term vision that can help really do sort of the root cause analysis, and then lay out a product vision or a roadmap to get from here to there, whether it'll take 2 months, 2 years, 5 years, whatever that is, right? It's different for different organizations depending on what the underlying need set and platform development looks like, but really helping them think through that. And then helping them actualize it, right? Not just come in and do a strategy and then say, good luck doing that, but really be there to partner with them as needed to help build it and bring it to fruition. So, when Coca-Cola needed a system for communicating and collaborating with their bottling clients across the country, they weren't able to go grab an off-the-shelf solution for that, right? That doesn't really exist. And instead turned to Mercury to help them lay down a plan for building a platform that would allow their shared services organization to service their bottling clients all across the country. And there was a broad set of needs, and we're able to build a cohesive application ecosystem for them that helped address a lot of those sort of specific immediate needs, but also provided them with extensibility and flexibility to grow and evolve that platform over time. What we developed integrated with a lot of back-end systems that they had, right? You want to make sure you're not running around trying to custom build everything. If you've got an ERP system like Oracle or SAP, great, use that. Don't try to rebuild that. But there's a lot of things those large enterprise systems can't do. They're not really flexible and nimble for quickly hitting spot needs. So leverage those types of systems where you can. And those data integrations are a challenge. So that they pose a wicked problem. How do you make sure you're hitting enterprise systems in a secure manner, right? How do you make sure that you're handling authentication and single sign-on in a way that makes sense across the organization? How are you making sure that you're actually federating and liberating the data that you're working in, instead of tying that up, and creating yet more silos within an organization? Those are the kind of wicked problems we help our clients solve, right? How do you manage and maintain this over time? So how do you build out the DevOps infrastructure and pipelines and feature flags? And a lot of organizations may know bits and pieces of how to do that, but aren't necessarily equipped to do that on an end-to-end platform basis.
That's fascinating. Thank you for sharing that insight. I wanted to switch gears a little bit to your role as an active partner of the company. You're in a position of leadership, obviously. I'm curious how you and the other leaders of the company handled the pandemic. We talk a lot about that on this show because that involves change. Did you change the way that you had to operate internally or dealt externally with your customers? And did you have to adjust your strategic plans at all?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hard to imagine a business out there that wasn't one way or another impacted by the events that unfolded. And if you're not taking those into account in terms of how you're running the business and thinking, short term, midterm, long term, you're doing yourself and your team a big disservice. So it certainly did have a lot of impact on kind of how we were approaching things. Interestingly, one of the things I think a lot of organizations struggled with in the beginning was sort of this transition to remote work, right? And for Mercury, we were fortunate in that transition from a operational technology standpoint was basically a non-event. We had been running the opportunity to work remote or flex time work from Mercury for years. So that really was a non-issue. What was a bit of an issue was doing that while also running a schoolhouse from your living room, or sharing your office space with a 2-month-old, 2-year-old, 20-year-old, right? And really those types of kind of work-life balances coming into play in everybody's life simultaneously really was a challenge, right? And so, one of the things that we really focused on, and we saw this playing out not just with our internal team and our people, our employees, but also with our clients, one of the things was really making sure that we met people where they are, right? And really come at things with just an increased sense of empathy, understanding, really kind of taking time to listen to where someone was. Mentally, physically, emotionally, business-wise. We had clients really all over the spectrum, Ben, of oh my gosh, this could put us out of business, to we've never had more business, but it's hard for us to sustain in this, right? And really taking the time to understand where people were and then kind of where they wanted to go, so that when we were trying to help them figure out how we could best assist, that we were doing it in the right way. A lot more fluidity and flexibility, right? I think that the trite overused phrase of pivot is really just that, right? Just being fluid, being flexible, making sure that while you have a plan and you have a vision, that you're willing to tweak that as needed to accommodate situations, right? And making sure that you just really take time to understand where people's heads are, what their needs are, right? The pandemic, I think, uncovered the fact that as much as we try to compartmentalize our personal lives from our professional lives, they're inextricably linked. And the pandemic made them even more so, right? And really shined a bright light on that. So making sure that we were taking care of our clients as people first, and then as businesses or as technology was second. That was something we really put a big emphasis on. Definitely increased communication across the board with employees, with clients. People wanted to kind of know what was going on, right? I think that amidst uncertainty, there's this really grave desire to really make sense of it, right? How do I do it? And if you don't fill in the blanks, their imaginations will. Or in the case of our clients, maybe our competitors will, right? And we don't want that, right? We want to make sure that we're being really open, honest, transparent, that they're seeing Mercury as a place of sanctuary, of safety, of understanding, even if we don't have the answer, even if we're struggling with a challenge that they're having, just being, yet more open, more honest, more vulnerable, if you will, is something that we did that we feel contributed to our success.
That's great. And I'm glad to hear that you're doing well throughout the pandemic. And it sounds like you guys were well positioned from the start to make those pivots, as you mentioned. If you're just joining us, you're watching Coffee with Ben. I'm Ben Blackman. I'm the Director of Development for Ridge. I'm joined today by Chris Carlo, who is a partner at MercuryWorks, which is a Tampa-based custom software and web development firm that specializes in web, mobile, and data-focused solutions. We were just talking about leadership and having to adjust to the pandemic. Another part of being a business leader is keeping your finger on the pulse. So I'm curious, from your standpoint, Chris, what trends are you keeping an eye on right now in your space? Do you anticipate any massive changes over the next 5 to 10 years that we should be aware of?
Without doubt, yes. Right, that's an unequivocal yes. I think all business leaders, need to be keeping a pulse on what changes are happening, and technology in particular. Right, the rate of change is pretty mind-boggling at times. We need to make sure at Mercury that we're consistently scanning the horizon for new technologies that are going to help our clients create new opportunities for their businesses. At the same time, we've got to avoid the temptation to chase shiny new objects, right? In technology, there's always myriad new things out there, right? And you got to kind of run that through a filter before you start getting too far along the pathway of any of them. Currently, sort of as we look out for the next 12 to 18 months, low code, no code, and pro code solutions are something that are increasingly important, and having the right ecosystem around them within an enterprise to make sure that your business units, tech teams, business leaders all have access to these, but are doing it in a way that you can manage, maintain, operate in a secure manner. We're seeing increased use of microservices and containers within application development. It gets into a little bit of the geekier side of what we do, but basically, rather than having large monolithic systems, have a set of smaller microsystems, microservices that power then the overall platform. It gives you a lot more agility. It gives you a lot more flexibility, reduces some of your security risks, empowers you to have a enterprise system for low code, no code, and what we call pro code solutions. So that's certainly something that's playing out. Jamstack, where you have kind of this decoupling of some of the technology that you're using, is certainly something that's playing a big role. And the need for a good communication and collaboration platform within an organization, right? So whether you're using something like Slack and Salesforce and that stack, or Microsoft with Teams and SharePoint and Power Automate and those things, having something that kind of pulls the organization and enterprise together was coming into focus pre-pandemic and is now sort of a laser focused task post-pandemic. When you look out a little further, mobility will continue to play an increased role. We think about mobility. It's often now one of the most frequently used devices for accessing applications. And with the rollout of 5G, that's only going to increase, and not just the continued proliferation and consumption by end users with sort of the traditional mobile device that we think of, but the Internet of Things and the connected devices, right? So 5G is really going to hypercharge what was already happening from connectedness within everything we do, whether it's BitPlay, whether it's work, whether it's personal, and that transmission and connectivity of data is certainly something that's going to really make a big difference and create a ton of really, really neat opportunities for our clients.
That'll certainly be fun to watch. So we might have to do another episode in the future to get your recap on some of these developments. But before we wrap, we always want to finish out with what we call the Benny Goodtimes Fast Five. These are five quick questions that allow us to get to know you a little bit better on a personal level. I know you're heavily involved in the community here in Tampa. I'm curious, what is your favorite thing about the area?
The people.
Mm-hmm.
It's no doubt the people. It's part of what makes it work. I'm extremely bullish on the region. We've got more people moving here every day, but the people we have here are great, and we continue to attract great people to this area. People like you that have been here for a few years now, but we got to continue to attract and retain great people.
Great answer. Now, if I give you a free ticket to go anywhere in the world, though, where are you going?
Going to Australia. I've had a chance to travel a lot of places and see a lot of things, but I haven't made it to Australia yet. So I'll take that in a post-pandemic free airline ticket world.
There you go. Definitely worth the trip. I highly recommend it. And you're not the first person to say that. It's a very popular answer on this show. Question 3 is, what is your favorite movie?
The Godfather. So,
great choice.
It's timeless. It wears well. A lot of great life lessons. And boy, it could be late at night, channel surfing. You can jump in anytime and enjoy yourself on that one.
And we know that Godfather 3, a little iffy, but Godfather 2, some people will say 2 is better than 1. What's your thought on that?
The only Academy Award-winning sequel movie ever made.
That's true. Very true. Question 4, if I was to put you on stage for a talent show, what would you do?
Wow. If you ask my kids, they'd say nothing. But I would say cooking. Like it a lot. I'm halfway good at it. And at a bare minimum, I could hold my own and not make a fool out of myself.
What's your specialty dish?
I don't really have a go-to. My whole thing is really exploration and trying new things. So when I sit down and make goals, I've got to be trying, a few new recipes a month is in my personal goal set. Every year to make sure I'm not forgetting the need to explore my culinary horizons.
Well, that's great. We'll have to talk about that offline, another passion of mine. And then finally, question 5 is, who's your hero or inspiration and why?
You've probably heard this a lot, but it's my father. Great role model, great person, has taught me countless life lessons. Still alive today. Just celebrated his 80th birthday with him this past weekend. He and my mom are both vaccinated. So getting to see them and celebrate and really be together as a family, which is something that was instilled by him and my mom at a very young age, is great. So it's definitely my father.
That's fantastic. That's great. I'm glad to hear that they're healthy and vaccinated. And then finally, before we go, where can our viewers and listeners go to find out more about all the great stuff that you guys are doing at Mercury Works?
Our website's a great place to start. So www.mercuryworks.com. Subscribing to our newsletter. We send out insights. A lot of the things I shared with you are things we've shared with our clients, with people on our newsletter. We publish pretty frequently to our blog, which is located on our website. Try to keep people abreast of what we're seeing, both from a technology advancement standpoint, what works, what doesn't, right? We don't always do it right. We throw it all out there. So encourage people to follow along, comment, and listen.
That's great. Well, I want to thank you so much again for joining me this morning. It was great talking with you. For anybody out there that's interested in learning more about Ridge, you can go to our website. That's ridge.com, RIDG.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and Facebook page as well. Thank you all for tuning in, and I hope to see you all next time. Take care out there.
Thanks, Ben.